Okay, so let others join. We will start now. Just a minute. So I request everyone to mute themselves if they are not talking, and they can unmute if they have any questions or anything, guys. Okay. So let me share my screen and let me know if you guys are able to see my screen. Okay. Okay. So today is our first class. I hope you all received the document, right?
Hey,
Just
आराम
yeah,
से रहो.
just a minute. Okay, guys. So if you all received a document like our course content, what we are going to cover, it is good. If you have not received, I'll share you. Just ping me one to one on a WhatsApp for a course content. So I'll just walk you through the course content, what we are going to cover. So we are going to cover our classes in specific modules. First, you are able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So we are going to cover our classes in specific modules. First, in module one, we will be going with the theory configuration, theory concepts like what is a FortiGate firewall or what is a firewall in general. Then we will understand the different type of firewalls in our environment, like what was the traditional firewalls and what is the NGFW firewalls. What are the advantages of NGFW compared to a traditional firewalls? Then
View means we
our FortiGate firewall dashboard walkthrough, we call it. Okay. So we will go to completely dashboard walkthrough, or if you want to configure anything in a FortiGate firewall, like suppose if you want to configure network, where you need to navigate to configure a network settings. If you want to go for a policy configuration, where do you need to navigate for a policy configurations? If you want to do VPN configuration, where you need to go navigate? If you want to create any users and all, how you need to create? We will just walk through the dashboard of our FortiGate firewall. Okay, just a minute. Okay. Yeah, any questions? Anyone? Yeah. Recording would be there. Don't worry, Raghavan. I'll explain everything. Okay. Yeah. After we go through a walkthrough of our configuration, we will go through our dashboard walkthrough. We will go to our FortiGate architecture. What is a hardware architecture in a FortiGate? How the traffic flows in a FortiGate firewall? Like when a traffic flows in a FortiGate, where it will actually go? There would be different type of processes in a FortiGate. We will go through that also. Then different type of policies available in a FortiGate, like a policy based and profile based inspection models in a FortiGate. Then a session table, forwarding table, UTM flow, how you can check this. Then how to configure zones, interface, role-based segmentations in a FortiGate. Suppose you have different users. I wanted to configure one user with L1 access or read-only access, second user with limited L2 write access, third with be admin access or L3 users. How you can do this, we will understand in our environment. Okay. Then third module we would be covering with our interfaces configuration, or you can say it interface configuration, VLANs configuration, or we would be doing our LSCP configurations. What are the SD-WAN overview? We will just see. We will not be going with the SD-WAN classes in this particular course. Okay. Then we would be going with actual routing configurations. First we will do static routing. Then we will go for the dynamic routing, like BGP, OSPF concepts and use cases of specific routing protocols. After that, the routing we will complete with our equal cost multipath for a dual ISP. If you have multiple ISPs, how you can do load balancing of your configuration or your ISPs or internet load balancing. Then we will go with the policy based routing. If I wanted to do routing like a specific routing exit from a specific ISP, how we can do this, we will understand. Okay. Then we will go with the NAT configurations in our environment. There are different type of NATs available, so we will go with the specific NATs, like a source NAT, central NAT versus policy NAT. What is the difference between that? What is the destination NAT? We will go through all these things. Then we will do virtual IP configurations, port forwarding, virtual servers, load balancing also we will do. So all this whatever I am showing a theory, modules, that is all compared under theory part. So with each specific module you will get like labs also. So 1 minute, let me show you now labs, what we are going to cover and how many labs. So, okay, if you see, we would be going with the initial network devices configuration. That means first we will build our lab topology. So today only we will build our lab topology. Then we will go with the firewall initial configurations, like whenever you have a firewall, you need to do first CLI configurations, then you will get the GUI access. How you can do this, we will see. Then firewall interfaces configurations, like if you want to do LAN interface, WAN interface, suppose you wanted to do LSCP configurations and all, how you can do this, we will see in our environment. So with each specific lab, how you can do step by step also given in this particular lab guide. Let me show you. So these are the number of labs we are going to cover, like minimum 40 labs we are going to cover, with comparing FortiGate firewall and FortiManager both. Okay. So this would be our initial lab topology when we are going to our environment. Then how you can build, how you can do initial configurations, port 1, port 2, port 3, everything would be given in our environment. Then firewall interfaces configuration, where you need to navigate, like open firewall GUI, navigate to network interfaces, everything would be given. So you can go to that particular tab and do a specific configurations. Like if you wanted to do port 4 configuration, you can give it a WAN interface, IP address, click OK. Everything would be given. Like this would be our interface configuration. Then interface LAN configurations. Then 3.1 we would be having aggregated interface, which means LSCP interface configuration. How you can do, we will see all these things. Okay. So this is our lab guide. We would be sharing with everyone, whoever is joining a class in regular phase. Okay. Then within a class, you will be getting, like whenever you join a class, all the classes are getting recorded. So you will get a complete lab guide of all the classes, and complete recordings of the classes, whoever join our classes. Okay. This would be two things you would be getting. Then when it comes to a lab environment, how you would be doing your day-to-day labs, let us see now. Okay. So for our lab, we will be using a software. We call it a PNet Lab. Okay. So for our day-to-day labs, we would be using a software. We call it a PNet Lab. You can download PNet Lab simply from this particular link and install it in your laptop. I will be sharing all the images for our lab topology, like what all images you would needed for lab. Example, you need a FortiGate. I will share the image of a FortiGate firewall. Switches, I will share the image. and routers I will share the image to you. Okay, if you get any issues that to build your lab, you can just ping me. I'll help you to build your lab after the classes. Okay, but not during the classes, but after the classes I will help you to build this particular lab topologies, or install the PNet lab in your laptop, or do configurations. So for this particular thing you need to have like 16 GB of RAM in your laptop. Okay, then just normal laptop with a 16 GB of RAM and VMware software should be there in your laptop to build the lab topology. Okay, so most of the labs we would be doing in your laptop, so you can do it lifetime whenever you wanted to do any practice. There are some labs which you cannot do in your laptop. I will be sharing my lab to do that particular configurations. Okay, so any questions? Okay, so now let us go. So today we will build our lab topology first, and we will go with our first class. Like first, let us do a theory part, like what is a firewalls. This would be, see, in day to day whenever we are doing any class, first we will create an agenda what we are going to do today. So in an introduction I will just walk you through what is our course content and how we will be going with our labs and all, and how you will be getting your recordings or not. We have just clarified these things. Now we will be going with the theory part, like these are our day-to-day topics we would be discussing. So today we would discuss firewalls, types of firewalls, then FortiGate firewall types, then FortiGate license types we would be covering. Then we will go with the lab overview, like whatever the lab we are having, or lab topology we will build, and the firewall initial configuration. Okay, so now let us discuss first. So how many of you are from security background, like worked on a FortiGate firewalls or any other firewalls? Manohar, Raghavan, Johan, Rick.
Yes.
Sorry.
Just yes, yeah. Recently.
Okay. So I assume you guys worked on a firewalls. Okay. So what is
I've
firewall?
worked on some checkpoint firewalls, but security is not really my area of expertise. Coming from a service provider data center background.
Okay. Okay, no problem. So generally what is firewall? Firewall is a device which will give a restrictions, right? Like it will have certain rules to allow or deny specific traffic. Okay, suppose this is your WAN. Okay, or you can say WAN firewall, and you have a LAN. This is your LAN environment. Now from a LAN users. Okay, from a LAN users, if you wanted to have any security things, like certain things should be allowed or certain things should be denied. Instead of firewall, if you are having certain specific routers, okay, then you would be having very limited in routers. Also you are having like ACLs, access control list, but that would be very limited, right? You cannot have more granular control, and at a user side you want to have more granular control. So what you will do, you would need certain different type of devices which can do a restrictions, like based on your environment or your company policies, certain things should be allowed or certain things should be denied in your environment, right? Suppose at the same time there is a internet connected. Okay, someone is trying to attack from outside. If you have a router and you don't have proper ACLs, everything would be allowed from outside, everything would be allowed from inside, right? That would be very difficult thing, and you would not be having a security in your environment. Your environment is open to everyone now. So for this, what we need a device which can safeguard or which can protect our company. So we would be having a device called a firewall, which will only allow specific traffic which we wanted to allow, and rest all things should be denied. In this case our environment would be safe. It will not be having a much attacks when the traffic is getting denied at our perimeter level. We call, wherever the firewall is installed at a WAN side, we call it a perimeter level. Okay, so our environment or our corporate network or our company would be protected at a WAN level only, and no attacks would be coming inside our environment or our network. Okay, that way we will safeguard our data, our company laptops, users, everyone. Okay, and how it will do? It will do based on policies. Whatever policies we will allow, that would be allowed, and rest all things would be denied. Okay, that is clear. Okay, so now in a firewalls also they were having different type of firewalls available. They call it like stateful firewall, stateless firewall, then we have NGFW, next generation firewall. Okay, so now let us see what is stateful, stateless, and next generation firewall. Now I am having a firewall. I am having a users connected. I am having here the server connected. It can be internet server. Okay, anything. At one side of a firewall, assume this is my LAN side, this is my WAN side. Okay, at one side of the firewall there are users connected. At other side of the firewall we have a WAN connected or internet connected, right? So if the traffic is going from this firewall to outside, remember what I said, the firewall works based on the policies. So now what will happen if the traffic is coming from LAN to WAN? We need a policy, right? So what I will say, if a traffic is coming from LAN and it is going to WAN, then I can say specific source, specific destination and all, and this traffic would be allowed. Okay, and at the same time the reverse traffic need to come, right? Now this was one-way traffic and I need a reverse traffic also. Here comes the concept of a stateful or stateless. When we have a stateless firewall, then I would need another policy now for a reverse traffic. So reverse traffic also I need to have a policy. Okay, to allow the reverse traffic, so the traffic. Now in the stateless firewall, how many policies I need? First policy I would need it from LAN to WAN. Then second policy I was required for WAN to LAN. This way, because in a stateless firewall there would be no sessions created or there would be no record created that okay, traffic went from LAN to WAN. This is the record created. Then return traffic came, it will match the same particular record or same particular table. That will not happen in a stateless firewall. But assume at the same time, if I am having a stateful firewall, then what will happen? When the traffic went from LAN to WAN, this traffic went, it is allowed from a policy. At the same time, firewall will create a session. Okay. When the reverse traffic comes in now, firewall doesn't need any other policy because this was the traffic which was allowed from our firewall and we are getting the same return traffic from the server. So this traffic would be matching to our session table and we will not need any other policy to allow this particular traffic. This will happen when we are having a stateful firewalls. Okay, is it clear what is the stateless and stateful? Okay, so I assume, see, if there is no questions or anything, I assume it is clear and I'll move to next topic usually. Okay, if you guys have any questions, please raise your hand or unmute yourself. Also, I'll move to next topic. Okay, then let us go to next generation firewall. Before next generation firewall, let us understand what was traditional firewall. Just a minute, guys. Okay, so now let us understand traditional firewall. Then we understand next generation firewall. Okay. So what is a traditional firewall? Generally means the firewall which works at a layer 3 or a layer 4. What is layer 3, layer 4 of OSI module? I think everyone would be aware. Layer 3 and a layer 4, which works at a IP addresses and which works at a TCP and UDP port numbers. Okay. So traditionally when the firewall came into a picture, there was no other things. The firewall used to just check the IP address and the TCP and UDP port numbers. Assume I am having a user, okay, and it wants to connect to a specific server. Okay. So a user IP is assume 192.168.1.100 and the server IP is 100.1.1.1. Here I am having some web server. Web server generally works on HTTP and HTTPS, right? Okay. So web server works at HTTPS or HTTP. Either of the port it may work. Web servers. So now when the user wants to communicate with the server, it will send the traffic in certain. He will first create a IP header, right? Source IP, his IP address 192.168.1.100. Then destination IP, he will create a destination IP 100.1.1.1. Then source port, he will create any random TCP port. Destination port, he will create HTTPS, which would be 443, or he will create with HTTP wherever the service is running 80. Okay. Then this traffic would be sent to a user. And now assume in the middle I am having a traditional firewall. Okay. So firewall will check the rule. If a source is this, destination is this, and a destination port. Usually traffic flows on destination port is like port number 80 or port number 443. This would be allowed. Traditional firewall role was to manage only these things like check a source address, destination address, and a port number, and allow or deny traffic based on this layer 3 and layer 4. Now here what is layer 3? Source IP and destination IP works at layer 3. This port numbers works at a layer 4, right? So this was the use of traditional firewall to allow or deny traffic based on this particular port numbers, right? Now the environment changed, the world changed. Now the traffic is not only till layer 3, layer 4. The attacks can happen at a layer 7, right? Someone can send a virus to our file. Whenever we are downloading any file from the internet, the file can contain a virus, right? It can be any file. If I am downloading a PDF or if I am downloading any image, that can also contain a virus, right? So now this PDF, image or data contains at a layer 7 actual data. We would be having a lot of issues with the traditional firewall. It cannot safeguard our environment completely. It can just do a normal layer 3, layer 4 allow or deny, which was not our use case nowadays, right? Because the environment completely changed, the world completely changed, and we cannot have a proper traffic security or profit security at our company. Then we got a NGFW solution. NGFW works first at layer 3, layer 4. After that, we have an option to enable layer 7. Okay, but when we had a traditional firewall, this layer 7 features was working with some other devices. We call it IPS boxes or IDS boxes. Okay, which used to do a signatures matching of a traffic. Then it should allow or deny traffic. But now we have layer 7 box, layer 7 traffic or options in our NGFW only. So here it works at IP address. It works at port numbers. At the same time, he can do a inspection at layer 7 also. So at layer 7, what all features we have in NGFW? We can do a URL control. We can do a DNS control. We can even check what applications need to be allowed. We can check a virus scanning, and we can do IPS signatures mapping. What type of pattern should be allowed or denied in our environment. So these all things we can check with the layer 7 at NGFW features. But with the traditional firewall, we were having very limitations, right? Only layer 3 or layer 4 inspection we used to check.
Yes, layer 7 include
Any questions, guys?
inspection.
Hello? Okay. If no questions, I'll move forward then. So now we understood what is next generation firewall. Now let us see in FortiGate we have different type of firewalls. One we call it a physical firewalls, one we call it a virtual firewalls. In FortiGate we have different type of firewalls. One physical firewall and one we call it a traditional firewall. Sorry, VM firewall. So physical firewall is nothing but whenever you order a firewall to FortiGate or we call it a OEM, authorized electronic manufacturer or FortiGate company, they will give you one box, one physical box with a license. Okay. So whenever you want to have a physical firewall, you need to pay for a physical box plus license at the same time. And this physical box you can install it in your data center or your company hub room. Okay. And this physical firewall comes with a different specs. Now your company is with 100 users, so you may be having a small firewall. If you want a firewall in your data center where you have a lot of servers and you want to protect your servers, then you may have a different type of firewall or different model number. So now let us see, there are different firewall models available for a physical firewalls. For ticket firewalls, product metrics. So now if you see, we are having 30G, 40F, 50G. So this particular models are based on our requirement to requirement. Now if my throughput or my internet throughput is not much. If you see VPN throughput for 30G is 3.5 Gbps. IPS throughput is 800 Mbps. NGFW throughput is 570 Mbps. Like that, NGFW throughput means if I am enabling all everything, like if I am enabling URL control, I am enabling IPS signatures, everything I am enabling, then I'll get to 570 Mbps of throughput. Okay. So this is the throughput and all. Based on the throughput, we will purchase our firewall. Okay. Now we would be having, these are all like low end firewalls or low end models. Then I will be having high end models also like 70F, 70G. These are medium ranges, then 120F, 200F, 400F, 700F, 900F. We would be having like 1000F also, 7000 also. Based on our requirement to requirement, if my requirement is like I am having a huge data center or big data center or with so many servers, then I may need to go with different physical firewall model number. Okay. Based on our requirements. Okay. Then after physical firewall, I am having a different model. We call it a virtual firewall. Again, virtual firewall is of two types. One is virtual firewall on-prem, which means I will install a firewall on my data center. Okay. Then virtual firewall cloud. Cloud means you would be having like in Azure or AWS or a GCP, Google Cloud Platform, anywhere, any other cloud platform where they support FortiGate firewalls. Okay. So when it comes to virtual firewalls, what is a use case? Let us see. So whenever you have a virtual firewall, FortiGate will not give you any box. You would be having a one VM image. This VM image you need to install in your own server. So to install a firewall, you need to have your own server with proper RAM, CPU and hard disk. Okay. Then you would be getting one license. Plus you need to purchase one license. So with the VM firewall, you need licenses. Okay. License and one is a security license. This base license allows you like what is your firewall throughput. When you purchase a physical firewall, you don't need a base license because based on your firewall capacity, you would be having a throughput. But when you have a VM firewall, you need to have a base license to allow what is your throughput. Okay, you would be having a base license like 2 vCPU license
or 4 vCPU license based on your requirement to requirement. Okay. Then security license is common in your physical or your VM firewall. You need to have different security licenses available like UTM flow, ATP flow, which we will see that later in next couple of slides. Okay. So these are the different base licenses and the throughputs available for our physical firewall and on-prem firewall or a VM firewall we call it. Okay. Is it clear?
Yeah, I have one doubt. In physical
Okay.
firewall,
Then
we
let us go to our lab environment, then we'll come to our license type again. So now we will prepare our lab. I assume, see, first, as I told you, I'll give you the image for our PNet lab and I'll give you all the PNet lab image. You can directly download from here and install it in your laptop. Go to this PNet lab download. If you click on downloads, you will get a download link to download and install it in your VMware. Let me show you. Just import this particular image in your VMware. This is my PNet lab. Then after you do particular import, you will be getting IP address of your PNet lab. The default username is admin and a PNet. Once you log in, what are the images you need for our lab environment? Image 1, firewall, switch, router, Windows PC. Okay, these are the 4 images we would need in our lab environment. All these images I will share with you and you can import it. How to import, what is the location? I'll share you in my lab document so you can follow the same thing. Okay. Now let us build our first lab topology. So for our lab topology, let us see. I would need L3 routers. I would need 2 routers in my environment. I name it like ISP. Okay. Then let me see router image. Okay, done. So this is my ISP1 and ISP2 I would be having in my environment. After that, I would need one more L2 switch. I name it like LAN switch. So we are building our first lab topology to do our labs or whatever our practicals we need to do, right? Okay. Then I need one firewall. So I would be using
LAN 3.
FortiGate firewall with 7.2 version. I name it like lab FW. Make sure you are not changing any CPU or RAM for your firewall or else it will not work. Just you need to import as is. Just a minute. I would need the firewall with okay, this is my firewall. This is my LAN. Then I would need one management PC. I'll call it Windows 11. Here I can do whatever changes I want. Assume I would need 4 vCPU and 4 GB RAM. That's fine for me. I can even change the desktop. I'll name it MJMT PC. This is to manage our firewall management access. Okay. And then I would need some LAN PCs. I will use virtual PCs. For these virtual PCs, I don't need any image. This is inbuilt in our lab environment only. VPC 10. I will say for VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. I'll explain you everything now. VPC 10, VPC 20. Okay. then I would need one cloud to connect my lab environment to outside, right? So this will connect to my internet. This particular cloud will be used to connect to my internet. So now let us do a connections. 0/0. My ISP routers would be connected to internet. Then for initial phase, I would be having only one ISP connected. Later we will do another ISP. I will use port number 4 for my ISP. Then here I will be using port number 1 for my management purpose. Then this I will be using for my management purpose. Then here I would be having two particular things. So now let us give a IP addresses to each and every one. So this I will be using like 100.1.1.0/30. Remember at the firewall side we will always be having .1. This management I would be using 192.168.100.0/24. Okay. Now VPC would be having a IP address of management PC would be having IP address of 192.168.100.100/24. Okay. Then my VPC 10 192.168.10.100/24. Just a minute, guys. Just give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Okay. Then at my firewall side, slowly I will be having two more interfaces connected. So I would need more ports at my switches. So I can add more ports with the Ethernet port 2. I'd be having then 8 ports. Okay. Now I would need more ports. So I will say port number 2 and port number 3. We would be using these ports in our lab environment when we need a port channel and all. Okay. Okay. So remember port number 1 we would be using for management purpose. Port number 2 and port number 3 we would be using for our LAN purpose at initial phases. So now let us do one more thing. Firewall. Port 1 I would be configuring with 192.168.100.1/24. Port number 2 I would be configuring with 10.1.1.1/24. Port number 4 I would be having 100.1.1.1/30. Okay, this would be our firewall configuration. Then L3 switch. First I would be creating different VLANs. VLAN 10, VLAN 20 and a VLAN 100. So VLAN 10 I will be configuring with 192.168.10.0/24. 192.168.20.0/24. Then VLAN 100 I would be using 10.1.1.2/24. Okay, so I will write exact IP addresses. Dot dot 2 dot 2. Okay, this we will use a later purpose. Okay, this would be there. So this is VLAN 10 PC, VLAN 20 PC also we would be having the IP address 20.100. Okay, so now this would be our lab topology. Any questions now in a lab topology? Hello?
Yes, clear.
Hello, guys.
No questions here.
Yes, Raghavan. Layer 7 will include SSL inspections also.
Oh,
Okay. So now let us go again. So now we will do our firewall configuration. Sorry. First, we will do our router and switches configuration. Let me do my switch configuration first. I'll power on all the things. So we would be following same lab topologies for initial labs. Like if you see lab topology, we would be having so many labs, right? Like 3.1, 3.2 till lab 7. If we need to do static configurations, lab 4 till how many labs? Let us see. Firewall management access restrictions. Then till static route configurations, we would be using our same lab, this particular lab topology. Then when it comes to different labs or different configurations, we would be doing a here and there modifications in our lab environment. Okay. Now let me do our switch configuration first. See, the switch configuration and router configuration we don't have in our lab topology. You can do it on your own, or you can follow a video and you can do it. So first I need to configure a VLANs, VLAN 10, VLAN 20, and VLAN 100. Okay, exit. As per now, I will give IP address of VLAN 100, interface VLAN 100, IP address 10.1.1.2, and no shutdown. Okay, now I need to configure ports to be respective VLAN, right? Port number 2 at a firewall, I would be configuring with VLAN 100, this VLAN 10, this VLAN 20, and this would be in default VLAN, which is VLAN 1, and port number 1 also would be in default VLAN. So a management PC can communicate with the firewall. Now let me configure a port numbers. Interface, sorry, ETH 1/0, switch port mode access VLAN 100. Then interface ETH switch port mode access switch port access VLAN 10. Then 0/3 node access VLAN 20. Okay. So this would be our initial switch configuration. Let me write down switch name, host name, LAN switch. Okay, I don't need any IP routing or anything at a LAN side because majorly we would be doing everything on a firewall only. Okay, just fine. 1 minute. Okay, let me close this now. Now let me do our router configuration also. Initially we would be using only one ISP, so I'll configure one ISP. At a WAN side, in my environment, I would be using a DSCP. Here I would be using a DSCP. Here I would be using a static IP. So now let me write down in the topology what would be the IP addresses of routers also, so you would be aware. So ISP1 T0/0, I would be using a DSCP, which I will get from my outside world. Then I would be using E0/1 static IP of 100.1.1.2/30. Okay, this would be IP addresses at my ISP site or ISP router. Now let us go back to our router. Then config T ETH 0/0 IP address DSCP. Let us wait a couple of minutes. Note that down. Okay. Then interface ETH 0/1 IP address 100.1.1.2/255.255.255.252. Okay. And then no shutdown. This is fine. Then I would be doing a NATing in my router because my router is public facing, right? Or router is connected to outside world. So I will say whatever traffic come from 100.series, translate this into my specific exit interface. This is called a source NAT. I would be doing normal source NAT. I assume you guys are aware about source net configuration. Oh, let us see. IP access list, standard 1, permit 100.1.1.0, 0.0.0.3. Okay, then interface. 1 minute, hold down. Host name ISP1. Then interface ETH0/1, IP NAT inside. Interface ETH0/0, IP NAT outside. Okay. Then IP NAT inside source list 1. Then interface overload. This will have a NAT configurations in our router. Now our router and our LAN side, everything has been configured, right? So the only thing remaining is our firewall and our management PC. Let me configure management PC IP address also. Okay. So I will give a management PC IP address 100.100. Gateway would be 100.1. And subnet mask, this DNS I will use 8.8. Okay. Now this particular PC we will use to access our firewall. Okay. Now the only thing we would be remaining is a firewall initial CLI configuration and firewall GUI access. We will try to do that later. Now let us go to our theory part again, like what are the different license types available in FortiGate firewall. Okay. So now let us go to our theory again. Okay, in FortiGate security, we have different type of licenses. One license type, we call it a UTM. Okay, another license type, we call it a ATP, Advanced Threat Protection. Okay. So what is a UTM and what is a ATP? Let us understand now. UTM feature will have all the licenses or all the security features, like if you want to do web filtering, you want to do DNS control, you want to do video filtering, or you want to have application control or a virus protection or IDS IPS signatures, everything would be available with the UTM feature. Okay. Then ATP, Advanced Threat Protection, or so in ATP you would be having limited options, like you would be having application control and you would be having a virus protection, you would be having IDS IPS signatures. Okay. But this particular things, web filtering will not be available, DNS control will not be available, and video filtering would not be available in ATP. So when you have an environment and you need to choose which license feature you want to go, like UTM or ATP, then you need to have understanding of your environment. Suppose you are installing a firewall in your corporate or office environment where you are having a lot of users. Okay, and what usually a users will go to internet. Okay, in this type of things, you need to control a URL access or you need to control a video control also, right? Apart from app control or virus control, you may need to decide a users will go to which URL or users will go to or access which particular videos, right? In that case, you need a UTM feature in your firewall. But now assume you are having a data center where you are having some apps, some applications hosted. In a data center, generally we will not have a users, right? So in that case, nobody is going to internet to access any specific websites or anything. In that way, you can go with the application or application threat protection or the ATP feature, okay? Where you will not be able to, where you don't need to have a URL feature required or DNS or video feature required. You need to only protect your applications or your virus protection in your environment. then you can go with the ATP instead of going with the UTM license. Okay, because different license will have different type of prices available or commercials available. Okay, that is a different thing in our license type in FortiGate Firewall. Then we are having like a support license or base license. Support license is nothing but whenever you purchase a firewall license, you would be having like 24 into 7 support or 8 into 5 support. 24 into 7 means you can, if you have any issues in your firewall, you can configure FortiGate team anytime, Monday to Saturday, Monday to Sunday, day or night, anytime you can configure. You can contact them for any issues. Okay, and 8 into 5 support means you can only contact them Monday to Friday, like during office hours, wherever your location. If you are in Europe office hours like morning 9 a.m. to evening 5 p.m., you can contact them. If you are in India, it belongs to India time zone. Oh, so that is the main thing for a support license and all. Okay, is it clear?
Yeah, okay. Whether the UTM is nothing
Hello?
but web ratings. Yeah, am I audible?
Hello?
Hello. Yeah, am I audible?
Hello? Am I audible, guys? Rick Raghavan.
Yes, yes, yes.